Greetings friends, how you all going today? My name is Bobbie Olan and welcome to my Slow Craft Vlogmas series. Today today's a knit day in my little sequence of different types of crafts that I have set up for myself, and I am actually just going to be finishing working on a pair of socks that I haven't touched since, let me see, in my handy dandy notebook here, the start of the month. That's not too bad actually, but that was only because I was prepping it to get it to the point where I only had the toe to knit and a bit of seaming on one sock to finish off here basically. So I hadn't touched it since mid-November before that, and I have this handy little, I've made this like my dedicated sock notebook set up because I like keeping track of my projects with notebooks more than taking all of my notes in Ravelry, and I like to time myself, so I just have notes here about the patterns I'm using or referencing, the yarn, and then I just record every time I knit, like what section I've worked on, how many rows I've done, and how long that has taken, and then any notes along the way. So I knit 1 foot. Let's pop this away because we don't really need it at the moment, but in my lovely Shan's yarns bag here, this is my favorite bag for socks, for sock projects. In here I have the yarn that I've used, and the first sock that I made was this one here. Oh, I'm gonna grab a sock blocker from EleventyOne Windmills, size small. Anyway, let's pop this on here so I can show you what is going on. It is not fitting quite right. Wow, that looks really bizarre, doesn't it? Well, this sock didn't work out like completely anyway. I tried doing, I think it's Kat Bordy's sweet tomato heel for the very first time, and I have made it a little bit big, so that was one of the notes to myself in my notebook there, that in general this is kind of all feeling like a little bit big and baggy. So in the second sock that I've done, I have worked it with a few less stitches, I think maybe like 4 less stitches or something like that, and I've made this heel a little bit smaller. So the way that heel works, and I will link to the video that I used to knit this sock, I'll link that below. But basically it's a short row heel that's worked in 3 wedges. So that is why I have like the 3 triangles of the different colors of yarn here. So wedge 1, wedge 2, and wedge 3. And I have said in it that it's a little bit baggy. Some of these short row bits, like they just have funny like areas where there's a bit too much fabric. So that's something that I modified there. And then this cuff is, oh gosh, let me have a look. It is the heel tab for short socks by Amanda Steck, and I have knit this a few times on socks for my partner, but these are the first socks that I have knit this for myself. So I will see how that goes. The one modification that I did make to it was that I made it more complicated for myself, as I tend to do, and I knit it in 1x1 rib instead of in stockinette. So we'll see how I like wearing that and using that. So because I wanted to make a few changes from this sock, with my second sock I knit the heel a little bit differently. So the way that the wedges are worked is you do the short rows and then you do a couple of full rounds going around the entire thing, not just on the heel stitches. So for this second one I used the yarn a little bit differently so that I could like just remember that I worked the heels differently. So you can still see the 3 wedges there, but I've used the main yarn to work the full rounds. And I do kind of like how that means that at the front, it's like that yarn doesn't look as interrupted as it does on this one here. I mean, that grey that I've used, the grey that I've used here, it kind of like fits in pretty well with the colors of this yarn. But yeah, here it just looks less interrupted. This yarn I'm using, it's a Shopper Wool, I think it's Admiral Flakes, and the grey yarn that I've used for the heel I think is Wendy Rome. And what else did I want to say? Oh yeah, so one other change that I made. How is it done? So this, the Sweet Tomato heel, it is worked with the short rows getting shorter, and just because of the way how I was getting these like bubbles of fabric, that was another thing that I tweaked when I did this version of the pattern. So I think I did the first one long rows getting shorter, and then I did short rows getting longer, and then short rows getting longer again. So this bubble here on the 3rd wedge is like, it's already past like the main part of the heel and it's underneath a foot. So I thought if I move that over here, that bubbly bit of fabric here, it's where, for me at least, like it makes more sense to have that extra little bit of fabric where there is still the curve of your heel taking place. And yeah, so I'm happy with how it is working out. I think this one I knit 72 stitches around, and this one is 68 stitches around. So yes, we are going to be working the toe today. Do I need this ring stitch marker that I'm using? I bought it off Etsy, and it doesn't really fit right. I find ring sizing really difficult, and you can see that it doesn't even fit my thumb. But this is just how I've worked out how I can still manage to use this thing. Yeah, it's a little bit awkward. It's not my favorite to use, but I think all of my stitch markers were occupied with other projects. And sorry, one last thing that I will mention is that it is just the needles that I'm using. So I'm using my favorite Addy Crazy Trio, or I think sometimes they're called Flexi Flips, 2.25 mil. I have 2 bamboo and 3 metal ones. So this set should have 3, but I broke one of the bamboo ones because I think I was just gripping it too tightly. So how I have found that I like to work it is by using 2 bamboo and 1 metal, and it works, it's fine. I haven't really noticed any major problems. So how do you work a toe again? Oh, and I've just realized all my devices are taken up, so I won't be able to time this. Oh well, bad luck me. You don't need to time everything, it's fine. I'm just totally like drawing a blank on how you work toes. I'm a bit tired today. I thought I got a full night's sleep, but I think I woke up a lot during the night as well, so I didn't get the best sleep. Anyway, this is also going to be a little bit awkward for me because I tried to set this up on my knitting chair just behind me. I don't think you would have seen it, but I couldn't. What was it? There were 2 things. One was I couldn't get the iPad, which is what I used to film my face. I couldn't have that in a position where the tripod holding my phone up above me here, where that wouldn't be in the way of my face. And then also for some reason the microphone on my phone hasn't been working properly, and the microphone on the iPad isn't great, so I didn't want to have to use it. Yeah, so I am back at my desk with my chair fully lowered, which means my arms are raised up and my elbows are resting on the table, which is not the most comfortable position to be in. And I think my arms and my shoulders will get pretty tired, but it'll be fine. Yeah, I really like these flexies. If you're not aware, the middle ones, they do have, can you see there how this point on the right is sharper than the point on the left? So if you have a preference for like a blunter tip or a pointier tip, you can choose which one you want to work with, which is pretty handy. I don't think the wooden ones do that. But I always choose the sharper point. And I did have to look back on my notes before I started just to double check how this toe is done. How I made the toe on the first one. And I am just working like a normal wedge toe. And I do, for this one anyway, I've done 10 rows where I am doing the decreases every other row, and then 7 rows where I am decreasing every row. And I'm pretty sure that's probably what I usually do to get a shape that I like. Whoopsies. And done a bit of the stuff up here. I don't know if you could see, but I had accidentally wrapped the yarn around the needle before I worked. I think it's okay. Before I worked the first stitch on the other side. So it's got a little bit, I have a little bit of extra yarn here, which is a bit of a shame, but oh well, that's one round. Ooh, let's check actually. Is one of these sharper than the other? I really don't think so. I think they're the same. Yeah, and I am finding that having this on a table as well, like the flappy ends keep like hitting in the table, which I feel like I don't notice as much when I am just working on my lap. But I can't remember, honestly. This is going to be the 4th pair of socks that I have made myself, and they are going to be the first pair in fingering weight yarn that is not some kind of color work, actually. Other than the sweet tomato heel and the heel tab, they're pretty vanilla socks. I always refer back to the August sock cal pattern recipe, whatever you want to call it, from Roxanne Richardson, just for my stitch counts and all of my sizing and all of the little tips and tricks to make sure that like it fits around my ankle, it fits around my foot, it fits around my heel, and like, you know, the height of my instep is all good. The length of my toes, the length of my heels, all of that is as like well fitted to my foot as possible. So that's a really excellent guide for me. I think it's really great to get the sizing right, because like I've mentioned in a previous video, for shoes I have a lot of trouble with shoes because I have small feet, a size 35 foot in European sizes, but I have wide feet. So it's really nice just to make sure that I can customize everything that I really need to. Don't know if you can hear that, but it sounds like there's a chopper flying about overhead. Sometimes I think that there are noises that you won't be able to hear that actually come through when I'm editing, and then there are noises that I think surely you must be able to hear that, but I can't hear anything. So that chopper is heading off into the distance. And for some reason that's just reminded me that I thought I heard what sounded like a single firework set off last night while I was trying to get to bed. There's been a little bit of that around. There have been a couple of nights where I've heard what sounds like fireworks not too far away. I don't know where people get these things, but are they illegal? I have a feeling they're illegal. Oh, oops. I forgot to decrease. I need to pay a little bit more attention to what I'm doing. When I first started knitting socks, I believe I was knitting on 2.75 mil needles, and I haven't gotten that much smaller really. But just, you know, like as I've learned more about knitting and about how knitting at, you know, at a tighter gauge creates more durable fabric. Oh gosh, struggling to enunciate. Yeah, I've just gone down smaller and smaller needle sizes, but I've only gone down a couple of sizes really. It could also be though, because while I do have a set of sock DPNs, I think the biggest that I have is 4 mil, and I have no idea what the smallest that I have is, maybe like 2 mil or something. But while I have a full set of those, like I said, I really do prefer knitting with these needles, and I only have them in this size, the 2.25 mil, and I do want to get more in other sizes. I do have actually one other set of this Crazy Trio needles, but that's in a 3 mil, and they are the range of those ones is novel long, so it's just longer. It's called long. It's a longer needle. Yeah. What have I used that for? Has that been big enough to knit hats or something? I can't remember now. Actually, I don't think they were that big. I have used them though, but they're quite. I find that one to be quite slippery for some reason. I don't know why it seems more slippery than this, and it's interesting too because that one, it has ridges in it, in the needle itself is a bit like ridged, which is meant to provide a little bit more friction, like it's meant to catch your fabric a little bit more so that it's not slippery, but I still find it quite slippery. And that could also just be because the last time I used them, well, I prefer knitting with wooden needles, which do grip your yarn more. So when I last used my novel long, which will always be the case whenever I go to use my novel long, the most recent needles that I would have worked with would be wooden needles. So I may just find metal needles to be slippery, like extra slippery, because I'm coming to them from wooden needles all the time. But somehow I'm not finding this metal needle to be really, really slippery. My preference did used to be knitting socks on magic loop, and I still do really like knitting socks 2 at a time. Did I remember to do the decrease at the start here? Yes, I did. So these particular socks I knit 1 at a time because I was trying something new, the sweet tomato heel, and I wasn't sure how well it would work or if I would like it. And obviously that has come in handy because the first one wasn't quite right, and so now when I've worked the second one, I've been able to do a few tweaks to it. So that is one benefit, in my opinion, of working a sock 1 at a time. Otherwise, my preference really is 2 at a time. And although it can be like quite fiddly, one way that I have found to work 2 at a time using these needles, because I really like using these needles, is I have, like I said, I have the full set of the metal crazy trio. So all in all, I have 5 of these needles that are the same size. So I have 2 needles in each sock and 1 needle that I am working with. So I will work 1 round on one sock and then work 1 round on the other sock, and then go back to the first sock and then go back to the second sock. And that has worked for me. I just have to remember to swap socks all the time. It can be a little bit trickier to keep track of. I probably really do prefer magic loop on a big circular needle. It just makes more sense. I think I've only done it that way that I just described once. And yeah, I did, like when I first started off knitting, I was using metal needles, and I used metal needles for ages, and my favorite sock knitting needles were Chai-Gu. I still have it somewhere. Oh, I think my Go-Go Dynamo shawl is on that set of needles actually. It's a 2.75, and I still think Chai-Gu's are excellent and their cables are wonderful, but other companies have started making similarly good cables now, and I have some for the interchangeable needle set that I have. The reason that I switched to wooden needles is pretty much because there was one winter where, am I back at the start of my round? Yeah. I could put a stitch marker to mark beginning of round, but I can't be bothered. Should I be bothered? have in the pocket of this, I've got some more beautiful snips, not snips, but a yarn cutter from EleventyOne Windmills. That was from last year's Advent. I've got some hooks, but they're too big for socks really, so they shouldn't be in there. White hat, oh, I must have taken it out. I had a little case here with some stitch markers that I like to use for socks. I think I used them for something that I just needed all of my available stitch markers for, because I'm keeping track of short rows and it needed all of the stitch markers. Oh, I've been forgetting as well that it's a neat trick that when you do slip knits, after you've done a slip knit, when you work that stitch on the next row or round, that you if you knit it through the back loop, it makes it neater. Can you see how it kind of looks like my slip knits, like they're doing like a zigzaggy thingy, whereas my knit togethers, they're all like running in a nice straight line. So I must remember to knit through the back loop on subsequent rounds, and I can try to remember to just show you and point out the difference then. But I was talking about why I switched to wooden needles. Yes, it was one winter when I was probably knitting socks. I'm pretty sure I was using those Chai-Goo needles. That one set of circular Chai-Goo needles that I have. Is this an decrease round? Yes. And because they were such fine needles and it was cold, like they were cold, and you know, because like a bigger surface isn't going to feel like as sharp on your hand because it's a bigger surface. I feel like I'm not making sense. I don't know why I'm so tired today. Anyway, whatever. Like it was hurting my hands just to be like holding those needles and working with those needles. And I'd already seen or heard like other people talk about the benefits of wooden needles, and yeah, just because my hands were so sore from gripping knitting needles that I felt like I couldn't knit, that was when I just said, well, I've just got to switch over, just got to try out wooden needles and see how I like them. And I think the reason that I probably haven't got more of these crazy trios at the moment is I do find it annoying, like finding the bamboo versions of these, because I do prefer the bamboo to the metal ones. But the metal ones are just so much easier to find, and there have been a few like yarn market festival type things that I have been to where stall holders have had the Addy Crazy Trio needles, but they only ever have the metal ones. Okay, knit through the back loop. Excellent. I feel like I could go to sleep right now. We slept with the window open so that we could take advantage of the cool change overnight, coming in to cool down the room without having to have the aircon on, and that was pretty nice. But I did wake up with a stuffy nose this morning. Probably because the window was open, and if my breathing was a little bit affected by that throughout the night, then that would be a reason why I don't really feel well rested today. I have been forgetting to do that trick that I mentioned that my osteo told me about, of like trying to grip something with your hand within the first 10 minutes of waking up and using your grip strength as an indicator of how well rested you are. I find the patterning of this yarn to be I like, for me it's a little bit unpredictable and interesting, and I don't know how much of the oddities within it are errors or if that's somehow just how the yarn is meant to be. So if you look at the sock that I'm not working, that is sitting above where I'm working, you can spot a few of the oddities there. Like in this patch of darkness here, there's this one row that doesn't sit in line. It's like comes all the way out here, and then the next orange one comes out way out, but then the rest are all in a chunk there. And then there are these instances here where in this light blue there's a line of orange, and in this orange there's a couple of lines of a couple of rows of light blue. But here you can see that the patch of orange doesn't always have a line of light blue in the middle of it, and same with the light blue doesn't always have a line of orange in the middle of it. Don't understand why. I don't mind it. It's just curious. I find it curious. Clearly I'm too tired to be very chatty today. And I think I have just made another mistake. I did a decrease at the start of this round when I wasn't supposed to. Okay, let's have a look here. Oh no, that was right. That was actually right. Oh my goodness. Excuse me. I still need to find time to wrap the rest of my Christmas presents. And write all the gift tags. I at least have all of the Christmas presents. I've bought everything. And my partner did the last of his Christmas shopping today as well. Go us. I was talking to him while we were heading out earlier today. We were talking about gifts for kids. And how, well, neither of us have kids. Neither of us, yeah. We don't have kids, and we're not really interested in having kids. And I am pretty grateful that we both feel that way. That was not the point of the story. The point of the story was to say that sometimes we feel like, because we don't have kids of our own, I guess, to raise or try to teach our values and values and beliefs or behaviors, or I don't know, what have you, too. Sometimes we feel like we want to, no, I feel like I'm not saying this very well. I sometimes feel like when I am getting gifts for my nieces and nephews, that it's almost like an opportunity for me to impart, some of my beliefs onto like a young generation. But it's not my place to do so. And I know that, and I try to resist that urge and just get them things that they would like, instead of trying to impose on them from a distance, and very occasionally, so likely very unsuccessfully. I try to encourage creativity and the value of making things and handmade things. And my partner, on the other hand, he struggles every year whenever we do the KK for his family. He struggles every year to think of something to put on his wish list, because he doesn't want things. He doesn't like having lots of things. And he doesn't want and need lots of things. Whereas me, on the other hand, I always have lots of things that I want. Mainly to do with crafting. He almost wants to encourage his niece and nephew to not constantly be wanting things all the time, and not to expect that Christmases and birthdays are all about just getting lots of toys and presents and stuff. And that's not to say that he wants to give them nothing. He still wants to give to them, but he doesn't really see value in a lot of toys and just lots of stuff. So he he was talking about, well, we also don't like giving money. We prefer not to give money. But one of his ideas, which he's not doing, he did get toys for his niece and nephew for Christmas, but he was like just musing that what he would prefer to do would be like if he could set up something where, like some sort of account where every birthday and Christmas he puts like a bit of money into an account for them that they then would not be able to touch until they're a certain age. So it's kind of like an investment for them, but they're not really going to appreciate that. So he doesn't do it, he gets them toys. But yeah, so he doesn't like stuff. He doesn't like getting things. And even for his KK wish list this year, he put down one book that he was like, well, I guess I need to put something. This book looks alright, I'll put this book. And then his Secret Santa messaged me and was like, oh, there's still like extra money in the budget, in the limit that we set for the KK. Like, is there anything small that he wants? Like, tell me, like, what else can I get him? I just realized that I missed doing the decreases on this one here, and instead of tinking back a full round, I am just going to fudge it by, if I just do, well, knit the first stitch, but then slip, and pass the first slip stitched over, and then I'll slip that back, and then knit it through the back loop, and that will hopefully be fine. And I'm just going to count 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 14, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. This one I will just jump that stitch over that stitch. 33, 23, 24. Oh, Bob, can't count. Twenty-one, 22, 23, 24. Okay, very, very good. So, just quickly here, can you see how these first stitches look a bit zigzaggy, like it's going left, then right, then left, then right, whereas up here it's like they're all going in a straight line. So these are the ones where the row around after the slip knit, I knit through the back loop, and these ones I just knit them normally, and it's done that. So that's that there. And I have just realized as well, because I knit this sock with 4 stitches in the round less than the first sock, if I still want the toe lengths to be the same, so I still want to knit 17 rows, and I want to end up with the same number of stitches, do I? No, I was thinking that I need to do another couple of rounds where I do the decrease every second round, but I'm just going to stick with the plan. So now I need to do 7 rounds where every round is decreased. And I cannot remember the story that I was saying before because I am so scattered and tired. Oh, I think I've just remembered. Yes, I was saying that the Secret Santa who got my partner for Christmas messaged me saying, what else can I get him? There's still, I haven't hit the limit yet with the one thing that he has listed that he wants. And I basically just had to say, honestly, like, he would genuinely appreciate it if you only got him that thing and didn't get him anything else. It kind of stresses him a little bit each year to try to think of something to put on the list. And I was just like, yeah, he kind of thinks of it as, we set a limit, and that he really sees that as a limit. Don't spend over the limit. But he never expects that you should try to spend the full amount of the limit. It's a limit, not a goal. That's his view. So that's what I said to his Secret Santa. And they said back, okay, thanks, I shall take your advice. So I hope that doesn't cause any problems for some reason. But my partner's sister's is kind of the same way, I think. I think she put things on her wish list that also didn't come up to the limit because that was what she wanted. And I think like she doesn't really ever want lots of things as well. Anyway, I remember one year when I got her, all she wanted was a couple of plain white t-shirts from Uniqlo. And this year all she wanted was just a few pairs of running socks. So yeah, he and his sister are both like quite minimal in that sense. Which I think is a really nice way to be. Sometimes I do get a bit overwhelmed with how much stuff I have, but I love it at the same time. It's part of who I am. But at the same time, yeah, I think that's why sometimes like I talk about, I want to try to not buy yarn, for example, and I want to use what I've got because I like collecting yarn and I like beautiful yarn and I like thinking of it in that way. But, and maybe yarn isn't the best example of this, but I'm like, I don't want to become a hoarder. And I know that like there are some things that I do can't hang on to that can, you know, someone could point to and be like, well, that's hoarding. Like when I wrapped the presents and how I made those little boxes out of manila folder dividers, which have been sitting in my craft stash for a few years. Like, isn't that hoarding? But like, my justification is that to me it's repurposing like materials that would otherwise, I mean, sure, they would have been put in the recycling, but if you can repurpose something, isn't that better? And it's like in that gift wrapping video as well, I cut out a whole bunch of gift tags out of some packaging for some sweet treats that my partner was given as a gift, because I thought that the print, the gold foil print on the packaging was really pretty and would make like really cute, pretty gift tags. And then that's more things that aren't being sent, well, at least not in their entirety, to the recycling centre. And I haven't had to buy tags, although I wouldn't have anyway, because what I would have done is I would have cut tags out of some of those manila folders. So is it hoarding or is it being economical? I think I'm thinking about it a bit now as well, because I have been going through and packing up my craft room. We got a notice to vacate not too long ago, and we have to be out of this place early next year. So I have started packing away my room, and there is very little, like, okay, so packing up to move is a really good opportunity to sort of actually go through everything and purge anything that you don't want to hang on to. And so far, there's been barely anything that I've looked at and thought, oh no, I won't take that, actually, I don't need to hang on to that. But to be fair, I have started with like some really obvious things. I've started with books, so all like craft books and magazines and all of that kind of thing. I've started with the ones that I don't think I'll be needing to reference, which is most of them, in the immediate future. And then when those boxes have gotten heavy enough with books and there's still space in them, I've packed them with things like fabric that I know that I don't have any sewing horizons. I don't have any sewing projects on the horizon that will require those materials. And pretty much all of my spinning fibre has been used to fill out those boxes of books as well, because I really want to focus on finishing the big spin of the fleece that I have from 2022 or whenever it was. No, was it? Whenever it was that I did the spinning course and I bought a fleece that I had been very slowly making my way through. I really want to finish spinning that before I dropped a stitch nearly. before I spin it, before I allow myself to spin any of my other fibre. So I guess, like, because I'm focusing on those kind of things, I haven't really gotten to the items yet that that will more likely include things that I don't want to keep. The first section that I packed up, where there were things where I was like, oh, do I really need that? Probably not, was my stash of blank notebooks. And really, I probably could get rid of more, but there were just a couple that I was like, well, if I have to let some go, and I don't have to let any go, but if I had to let any go, maybe I wouldn't hang on to these particular ones. I think, to be honest, it was probably just something like 2 Moleskine notebooks, because Moleskine's not my favorite brand, and I have one lined notebook, which is my least favorite kind of like page style, I guess. My favorite is dot grid, and then depending on what I am doing, it would either be grid paper or blank pages would be the next preference, and then lined last. But I also won't be surprised if, as I finish packing up, I just slip those Moleskines back into boxes, because again, I'm just still like, oh, and you never know, I might, you know, get around to using my dozen notebooks and need these so that I don't then have to buy more. It's quite silly. Okay, I think this is my last round, so I just want to count. I just can't remember all of a sudden. Are you supposed to end up with a third or a quarter? I ought to refer back to my August sock cowl pattern. Okay, stop being sleepy and let us do the Finchley graft. 1, 2, 3 times the length. Is that what it is? It is now. I've cut it. It has to be. I have a feeling I was supposed to do one more. One more round, but oh well. Alright, so we've got to turn this inside out. So let's get a couple of these points. I will, oops, let's keep one loose for now. Carefully poke that in without dropping any stitches. This is the fiddliest part of the Finchley graft. Oops. Carefully poke this end in without dropping any stitches. Grab those 2 ends, turn my sock inside out. Carefully, slowly start pulling one needle out. Without dropping any stitches. clumsily. Let's get the other one. Here's the end of it. Let's pull my tail through. Alright, didn't drop any stitches, excellent. Where's my needle? Alright, I didn't remind myself and look up this, how to do this graft and make sure I was doing it correctly. I will pause here and do that because I do not want to stuff it up, and I don't trust myself to remember while I am in this tired state. I looked it up, and the way that I poke the needles through, I had remembered correctly how to do that. The thing that always throws me off is which stitch you're allowed to take off the needle once you have, like as you go through, as you start doing the graft, as you work the graft. I always just have to remind myself which is the correct one to slip off. So yes, check that out. The Finchley graft, I follow the tutorial from Roxanne Richardson. It is such a nice, easy one to do. I honestly thought that knitting this toe would take me like half an hour. And it's been what, like nearly an hour or something like that. If I look at the previous one, the previous toe took me like 45 minutes to knit. What had I just done? Nearly went the wrong way, I think. And I didn't watch the full video from her, but it does also show you, if you stop the graft partway through and then come back to it and can't remember what you're up to, which is the situation I just found myself in. She tells you how you can recognize where you are and what you should be doing next. But I didn't think I'd be stopping halfway through because this is only a very small amount of stitches, so I didn't bother watching that. But I think I'm okay. I think it will be fine. I like the Kitchener stitch. I have no problem doing the Kitchener stitch, but honestly, this graft is just, it's ridiculously easy. And that fiddliness that I did at the start, where I was trying to like bring my needles through to the other side, and I was like having to be really careful about not losing any stitches. That process is a lot easier if you are using like a circular needle, because you just slip all of the stitches onto the cable bit and then you can poke poke the needles through and pull them to the front. And I think maybe, now that I think about it, in the past as well, I may have put all of the stitches onto one flexi flip, one crazy trio, so that I could do that and I could slip all of the stitches onto the cable bit and then somehow poke the yarn through. But obviously it's still doable with full deep ends, although it was still helpful to have the cable bit of these to just give me that little bit of extra wriggle room. And my needle, slippery metal needle, just slipped out. And I have heaps of yarn left, so I probably could have just measured out a lot less. But that's okay, better to have too much than too little. Let's just do a budgie weave in, shall we? It's just socks for me, and I am much lazier with knits for myself than I am with knits for other people. And I think that I still have socks that I have knit for myself that I have not woven in the ends, probably. Or maybe I've woven them in, but I haven't snipped them, or something lazy like that. That will do. What else have we got here? We've got these two here, nothing on the other side. So that's basically just the start and the end of the grey yarn here. This heel is pretty great though, that there are no tiny stitches, that there aren't any holes in the sock. So if this one feels like it fits me right, then this may have just become one of my favorite heels to do. Kind of just want to weave in this whole end so that I don't need to bother with snipping off an odd bit. And that's just going to end up in the bin, or in my thread keeper actually. Let's see how far this gets us. Yeah, that'll do, I won't bother chopping that. Let it go. Let's get lazy. don't know why I've got such big loops here. Is that just my sloppy knitting? Sloppiness with this new to me type of short row that I haven't worked before. I don't think that will be enough to fully hide this bit of yarn, and I don't want to cut it because I cannot be bothered dealing with it. So let's keep going. Do I care about that? I'm going to be lazy and leave that. We do have one last thing to do, which is sewing down this heel tab. So I think I just crochet chained this end to keep it out of the way while I was knitting, but I've left myself a good long bit here for sewing that in. This pattern for the heel tab, I'm pretty sure that the designer says that they find that they get better results when they do this, when they sew it down at the end rather than whatchamacallit, very technical, rather than when they knit the whole thing and then knit like when they start the leg, they do like a knit two together kind of join thing to like join as you go, essentially. How did I do it here? Was there a fancy way that it was done, or was it kind of just like, no, I think it's just some kind of like mattress stitch or something. Do just want to make sure I'm lining it up somewhat. So if I follow that row, I want to line up that with that. Okay. It is pretty narrow. I kind of wonder if maybe next time when I work this, maybe I should just knit a few extra rounds so that I get a bigger tab, maybe. Trying not to pull too tight as I sew as well, because then I will lose any flexibility that this may have. Any stretch. And of course I still need it to fit around my heels and my foot. So I do not want to lose the stretch. Thank you very much. Maybe next time I knit these, I will make it a bit longer before doing the tabby bit, and then I will also try just like knitting it together. like knitting this fold down when I start the leg, then I don't need to fuss with doing this stitching, although it is pretty quick stitching really. I'm not trying very hard because I am tired. I'm not sure what I am going to do tomorrow in tomorrow's Vlogmas. We're going to be out for a good portion of the day at a family thing, which isn't going to give me a lot of time for filming something and editing. So it is possible that it may just be another day that is purely unboxing. I don't know yet. I'll have to see tomorrow. My original plan, if it was just going to be a like following my sequence of crafts, then it would have been a mend day. It would have been a mend day, and I would have been using that to mend, to quote unquote mend the Christmas sweater tea towel by turning it into a zokin. No, because my plan was to try to find time today to prep that so that tomorrow I could just do some fancy stitching on it. And the fancy stitching is essentially going to be securing all of the holes in that fabric. So in that sense, it's a mend. Getting there. And once again, I have estimated too much yarn, but better too much than too little. Okay. That's that. So now let me just do where do I want to weave this in? It's not that hard, Bob. Just start. Just do it. Although actually before I finish this off, I should just check the stretch Yeah, that's still got plenty of stretch. I haven't overdone it. That'll do. Snip. I've got the scissors here, I may as well snip that. There you have it. That sock is done. And can we compare the pair? See how this second one, it's a bit more like square there, and then that's only like a little bump there because of how I have done the short rows differently, whereas here these are all equally sized like angles. So this one, I've made this one the sharper angle, and this one is a looser angle. But hopefully that'll be a good fit, and I think you can see as well that the second sock is a little bit smaller than the first one. Look at that. Why didn't I snip that? Alright, well that's it. That is it for the crafting. I don't know if I can be bothered blocking these or if I shall just wear them and then they will get blocked when I first wash them. Oh, interesting. Look at how the patterning is different as well. Just from a 4-stitch difference in the circumference. Huh. It's always fun to see that. Done. Stopping. Stop procrastinating. Pack this away. And we're gonna get to Advents. I'm actually pretty super sore in the shoulders from working this way, so I don't think I will be doing that in the future. I will have to sit up so that my arms are at the right height for the table instead of my feet being flat on the ground. Anyway, that is neither here nor there. We have the EleventyOne Windmills Advents here. I hope I've got them in the right order. I don't think I've remembered the order for the yarn correctly, but it doesn't really matter. The inspiration for what I think is the notions is a keel build toucan. Keel build. I haven't heard that before. Isn't that what all toucans beaks are like? Maybe not, I guess not. Oh my gosh, that is brilliant. The beak is the cutter on the yarn cutter. That is so good. Oh, that's genius. You do it so it's like eating the yarn. I love it. Oh, that's brilliant. So good. Okay, and I did get it right. So the stitch marker is... Oh, I saw it before I pulled out the card. It's that blue Morpho butterfly again. And it's a pair. When I accidentally pulled it out initially, I saw it like that and I thought it was one stitch marker. But it's left and right. Oh, that is so awesome. That is really cool. And I wonder actually, if you had like those light bulb type stitch markers, there's actual holes on the wings there. I don't know why you would need to attach extras, and I probably never would need to attach extra markers there, but I don't know, maybe you could. That's adorable. That's brilliant. That's really awesome. The yarn inspiration is that squirrel monkey, which was something else that isn't here. Anyway, squirrel monkey. And ta-da! Oh, that's interesting. From 3 Trees Fiber Crafts. Wow, what an interesting color combo. And very such a good match for the inspiration there. That is beautiful. Very happy, another very happy despite being very tired day. Yes, well, that's all that I have for you. I guess I will see you tomorrow. Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye. You can see here the difference in how the socks fit. This was the first one, and you can see how much baggier it is there. Whereas this one actually like fits really nicely around my heel. So where I made it a sharper sort of still can't find my words. Where I made this a sharper curve is really at the corner of my heel, which is perfect. And then the little bump here kind of forms perfectly when it starts going up into the arch of my foot. So I'm really, really happy with how these have turned out. This one is a snugger foot as well, and this one is a bit of a looser fit. So overall, the changes that I made to make the second sock worked out really, really well.